The best success insurance, regardless of the algorithm, market, and economy, is that thought leaders are steadfast in their ability to stay ahead of the curve. You become indispensable and you are sought after and in demand. So people are coming to you. No more chasing attention, no more chasing trends, no more trying to drag people to work with you. You are the go to sought after thought leader. People sell themselves on working with you because of your disruptive thinking and powerful perspective. And quite honestly, you don't have to shout or be the loudest person in the crowded online space because people see you and chase you. This is the power of becoming the go to in demand thought leader. And that's what we're going to discuss here today. Now, hey, and welcome back to the Business Real Talk. Last week's episode was so good. I mean, so good. So if you haven't already, go back and check it out where we talk about how to actually create a no-brainer offer. Now, this week's episode is just going to continue to build on these concepts and make it even better. Now, let's get real. You're here because you're an expert. We know this, right? And you're likely an aspiring thought leader, an expert who doesn't want to fly under the radar anymore. You've got this mission and you're changing lives. It's time to take it to the next level where your leadership is actually creating those opportunities for you. So it's like standing on stage in front of an audience of hungry listeners who all showed up to listen to you, where you have enough demand that you can slow down or speed up whenever you want and not worry about what happens next. You quit the chase. No more keeping up with every next best marketing trend from self-liquidating offers to live launches to books, etc. You're not in constant turmoil of what happens next. You're in control. You're in demand. You're sought after. And I'm going to show you the steps today on what you need to do to nail that, to make it a reality for now and decades to come. But it starts with crushing some myths, the things that we feel like have to be in place in order for us to become that sought out thought leader that has people running to them. Number one is a large audience. How many of you have felt at some given point that the only way to become a thought leader, nonetheless one who's sought out and has people coming and running to them, is that you need a large audience? Now, that couldn't be more false because the reality is the size of the audience does nothing for your ability to be able to command a room. That's what really matters when it comes to actually being able to create demand, leveraging your thought leadership. Number two is that you need to be a loud content creator. The reality is, everyone wants to believe that if we just posted more, if we just showed up more, if we were just in more places, that our ability to be able to command that audience and get people into our world would happen faster or easier. But the reality is that's not how it works at all. And quite honestly, when we're doing it this way, where we're focusing on being the loud content creator, we take away from what true thought leadership and creating that ability to be sought after and creating demand really is all about, which is understanding how to speak to an audience that actually moves them. And the side effects of that become that now you become burnt out because you're building a big team, you're creating this huge brand, you're doing all these things that you think are necessary in order to really establish and scale your thought leadership, but more importantly, trying to create demand that happens consistently through your thought leadership. Now, the third and final myth that I hear is that it's going to take years of effort. Now, let me be honest, I'm not one to try and sugarcoat things. It is going to take work. It's going to take time, but it doesn't take decades in order to get there. It used to be that it would take us such a long period of time because we were struggling to create the clarity around what we actually did, what our really thought leadership was, nonetheless, how we actually translate that into a message, a marketing, a movement that allows us to actually drive people in. That's no longer the case. It doesn't have to take years. Can it? Yes. Does it sometimes take people decades to get there? Absolutely. Does that mean there's something wrong? Absolutely not. But there is a way to actually make this process a lot easier. And that's what we're going to talk about here today. Now, first and foremost, it's going to break down to three core things. The first one is being known. No matter what, if you want to be a thought leader, you need to be known. Okay. You cannot be under the radar, undercover. You can't be this genius that nobody really knows about because that takes you away from the ability to be able to actually share your thinking, nonetheless being able to create that demand that we ultimately want. Now, when I think of thought leader, I think of innovative thinker because the reality is most people stay small because they think small. They can only see what they've been told is actually possible or how things have been done up until now. Or they're so close to what they're doing that they only see what's right in front of them. The reality is, getting out of your own way and having the ability to see and think bigger is the biggest roadblock to most people's success. And coincidentally, it's the first step in shifting into the space as the go to sought after thought leader that you are. Now, look at your business. How are you making decisions right now about the present and the future? How do you determine how to catapult your vision in 5 years, 10 years, and further on? And lastly, how do you even know if you're actually thinking big enough? These are all questions you should be consistently asking yourself because the reality is the two biggest reasons why people continue to think small is that they're either too busy or too close, which means we no longer have the space to create the vision because we can't actually grow in a confined space. So oftentimes what we see is maybe someone's grown a really successful business, but they've been doing so in a way that means that they're chasing demand. They're doing all the heavy lifting and they haven't actually let their thought leadership do that heavy lifting for them. Why? Because they've been growing in a space where they're so busy, they lack the ability to really lean into their vision and really be able to see things past this small space that they're in, or they're just too close to it. It's like we've always talked about how you can't see the label from inside the bottle. When we're too close to things, it's very difficult for us to be able to see the opportunity beyond what we're doing. Now, recently, I was having a conversation with my friend and colleague who's incredibly successful. Okay. She is amazing. She's renowned for her ad strategies. And for months, we've been talking about how I don't believe she's thinking big enough. So finally, she asked me on Friday, Nas, if I were to ask you what you think I'm missing when it comes to really seeing my business at scale, the potential that I have, what would you say? And immediately my response was, you're not thinking big enough. Now, she has spent years chaining herself to the concept of ads. Yet, within minutes of speaking to her, you can instantly realize that there's so much more to what she does. The problem is, she struggled to put her finger on what that was or what she was allowed to really speak to. Now, she had contained herself so much that it was hard to break out of it. So I asked her one simple question, one that left her reeling and a little bit triggered because she'd been playing small for so long. I asked, if I were to sit you down and have coffee with you and ask you friend to friend, how could I create spaciousness so I could be super successful but still enjoy my life and go on a trip on a whim? What would you tell me? Now, she immediately sent me a 3-minute long voice memo with a whole breakdown that, guess what, didn't include ads. The truth is, I've spoken to thousands of businesses, experts, and CEOs, from people running multi-billion-dollar corporations to expert salespeople and small town business owners, and the truth remains the same. Thinking big is not a skill that often comes naturally when we're building a business. We need someone to help draw that out of us, to develop that vision, open the windows and doors to what's possible. I can guarantee you that your thought leadership right now, that innovative thinking, isn't in the ad strategy that you sell or the perfect resume you teach in your career coaching. I can guarantee it's bigger. It's the way that you approach the outcome as a whole. People always come to me and say, how do I know if I have what it takes? The innovative thought leader who can create demand. And I tell them it starts with how big can you actually think? Because the reality is, it's no secret that the hardest part of the work that we do together with our clients is actually drawing that ability, drawing out that space to be able to think bigger. Now, we've perfected the process to get there, but it still takes deep market research. It takes you going deep into your vision and collaboratively unraveling and unveiling the possibilities that otherwise didn't exist before. It's how my client went from relationship coach to have it all queen, how my sports coaching client saw beyond sports to see how she was actually fostering resilience in children. It's how my sleep consulting client landed a huge opportunity at Pinterest because she uncovered her unconventional approach to creating a productive workplace through healthy sleep. From this, we uncover what you really want to be known for because it's not ads, it's not health coaching, it's not any of that. It's the innate, innovative thinking on the bigger outcome that defines what you will be known for. And without understanding this, first and foremost, you become a commodity fighting for attention in a sea of people. And no matter how innovative your thinking is, you're not going to be able to create demand. You're not going to become the go to sought after thought leader when you can't uncover this new way of thinking. This is the first step in becoming the go to sought after thought leader that has dream clients and opportunities clamoring over them. Now, the next piece of the puzzle is actually being heard. Now, the reality is, messaging is what's connecting you to people's inner thoughts, right? In a way that's actually challenging their way of thinking. This is the important part because when we want to be heard, it's not about just showing up, it's about understanding this concept deeper. Because the reality is, there are millions of undercover, unknown, and unheard thought leaders around the world. Why? Because while they have an innovative or unique perspective, they either haven't effectively learned how to communicate that with the world, or if they have, it hasn't created a ripple effect. And it's the difference between the here today, gone tomorrow influential thinkers who we think we see a glimpse of in messages that garner attention, and those who have earned the space and people who come back over and over and over again for consistently innovative thinking. Because the truth is, simply showing up and sharing your message just isn't enough to be sought after for your thought leadership. That means you can spend years sharing your message and still not create demand for the work that you do. Simply showing up is not enough. Being sought after as a thought leader requires the ability to articulate your innovative and unique perspective consistently in a way that drives change and connection. Because a message that doesn't resonate is like shouting in front of an empty room. It's all just an empty echo. So it's not about being the loudest person. It's about being heard, where your voice reverberates with each and every person it passes through. So, how do you share your thought leadership in a way that actually creates demand without losing the inherent purpose of your voice? I call it breakthrough resonance. Now, it successfully combines the two key elements of a message that drives demand while serving the impact driven purpose. Number one, creating a breakthrough of thought that connects with people and makes that new belief feel instantaneous. Some great examples of this are the smartphone. When Apple introduced the iPhone in 2007, it revolutionized communication and computing. But the way they launched the iPhone itself was a masterclass in marketing. Steve Jobs unveiled this device in a highly anticipated keynote address, emphasizing its revolutionary design and features. The iPhone was marketed as a blend of phone, an iPod, an internet communicator, showcasing its multifunctionality. Or the internet browser Mosaic, which was released in 1993. It was the first web browser that actually offered a graphical user interface, which meant that the internet now became more accessible to non technical users. Or Post it notes. We all know of Post it notes, and it became a wild sensation as soon as it hit the market because they knew exactly how to make it crystal clear the power behind it. Now, all three of these things had the same things in common. They took breakthrough thinking and combined it with a message that connected with people's desires. Because the most effective thought leaders don't aim to be loud, they take their quiet innovation and attach that to a breakthrough resonance that spreads their message. So the question that you need to answer for yourself is, how do I take the breakthrough that I'm creating and what is the desire that I am connecting that to that ultimately creates that breakthrough resonance that allows your message to continue to spread even when you're not online. Now, the third and final piece is that being known and heard are all really important, right? But there's often this misstep in being sought after as the thought leader. Yet it's probably the single biggest factor in creating sustainable success. It's the heart of true change that outlasts every algorithm change, that stands the test of time in an ever changing marketing. And it's the thing that makes some succeed while others are just trying to stay afloat. It's the ability to thrive regardless of the circumstances. And it all comes down to this: how are you being remembered? It sounds simple, but I want you to think about it this way. If you were to stop posting, if you didn't show up day in and day out, how quickly would your name be forgotten? There's this huge push for personal brands right now, and I get it. It helps businesses create an edge in a loud market. But the problem with a personal brand is that it requires you, your face, your energy to constantly show up in order to be remembered. I don't know about you, but that's just not sustainable. Because what happens when we do create the level of demand where you're sought after, asked to be on stages, rooms, and places that you have only dreamt of? It becomes increasingly difficult to show up the same way that you did before. The solution, therefore, becomes that we don't rely on personal brands, personality, or branding you, but instead letting your methodology take the lead. Your method is what allows you to codify your thought leadership into legacy belief that actually stands the test of time. Beyond that, it also allows you the ability to create a true trickle down effect of your message because you can only carry your message so far. True thought leadership is the adoption of your principles by others, creating disciples of your belief. And to be sought after, where people chase you, you need that belief to be distinguishable by others with ease and speed. Imagine this for a second. You wake up on a Tuesday morning with space on your calendar to sit outside with a coffee in hand, listening to the sound of the trees while soaking in the thoughts that have flooded your brain for the last few days. Your deep rooted thinking has allowed you to see opportunities so vast, so great, that they have the power of changing millions of lives. And rather than it feeling forced, there's this spaciousness, this flexibility that allows you to build on those visions. Now, after you've filled your cup with writing a dozen more pages for your next book, you turn on your phone to find 3 DMs from prospective clients who are saying they want to find out about how they can begin working with you if you have any availability. In your emails, you've received an invite from a colleague you connected with who is so blown away by your innovative approach that they can't stop thinking about it and they want to invite you to speak at their mastermind about your work. You have past clients who have come to you asking if you can create a certification program because your method was so transformational that they want to be able to support others with the same methodology. You look around and you wonder, how is this your life? And the best part is, it feels natural. There's no pressure or force. It's as if everything has fallen perfectly in place. Yes, it took work to get here. Yes, there were times that you wondered if you were on the right path. Yes, there are still moments where you have to buckle down and do the work. But you're so grounded in what you're doing because your method has gone from something you do and something you work for to something you champion. See, methodology goes beyond message. It goes beyond showcasing your offers. Methodology, the way that we look at it with innovation, is actually your masterpiece, your innovative thinking, the actual approach that you take to change brought to life. It's the codification of your deep rooted thinking in a readily understood method that is passed on beyond you for years and years to come. It's how you become the memorable and go to industry leader. It's how you create demand that surpasses marketing norms. It's revolutionary and it's yours. So, how does it actually happen? How do you take decades of experience or deep rooted innovative thinking that you can barely verbalize and make it its own entity and one that creates such a big shift that people can't stop thinking about it for weeks, months, or years after? I call it the irreversible shift. That moment when you unlock something in people where they can never think of it differently and your methodology becomes the guiding light to their problem. Now, 3 things have to happen. Number one, they feel relief. This has been something that has caused internal or external turmoil. They've been frustrated with their business not growing and have spent blood, sweat, and tears trying to solve it. Or they've had to live and deal with autoimmune disease for so long, it simply became their norm. It's your job to understand and address that turmoil. The second thing, they can actually visualize the results. Now, people act based on what they can feel and see. Your ability to be able to speak to their results in a way that makes them actually visualize it is what actually allows them to feel it. Now, the third and final piece is that the course of action actually makes sense. Listen, gone are the days of just hoping people trust you or trust your process. Market sophistication means that our brains need proof before we accept that something that sounds great actually is great, especially when we're creating breakthrough resonance where we're asking people to think completely differently than they ever have before. This is where your method steps in. Your innovative methodology not only gives people a visual and easily understood map to the result, it actually gives proof. Like my client Piper, she didn't just promise that she could get children with tick syndrome results. Her method gave proof to the process and why it worked. Same with my client Sarah. As a mental health practitioner turned coach, she didn't just say that therapy wasn't working and that they should work with her to fix it. She used her elite embodiment method to bridge the gap between brain and body and show how they can actually feel healthy, happy, and emotionally regulated without numbing out, burning out, or spending years in therapy. She was breaking down what traditional therapy never taught them about overcoming anxiety and exhaustion to optimize brain and body before she ever asked them to make a decision to work with her. This is the difference between having and creating content and filling your life and your world with more marketing that just forces you to have to push yourself onto people versus having thought leadership, having something that's truly tangible to the change that you're creating, the revolution you're building in your market, but having a methodology that gives proof to that, allows people to see exactly why and how it works. That is the power behind what I know to be the innovative gap methodology and why we spent so much time working on this. And it's just one piece of the puzzle in the Easy Yes method. It's the reason why I'm constantly reminding you of the power behind creating easy yeses, because an easy yes isn't just about hearing yes to your offer. It's about hearing yes to your beliefs. It's about getting your expertise, your thought leadership into the world in a way that makes them say, how have I never seen this before? And it all starts by knowing how to win the market, how you get people to buy into your innovative thinking by having your innovative gap methodology that does the heavy lifting for you. This is the culmination of years of experience and your ability to bring those thought-provoking, innovative ways of thinking to the market so that they can instantly see that as well. We do this by developing your innovative gap methodology so you become the only and unmatched solution in a marketplace. So you're creating demand where people are chasing after you because they understand that your solution is the only solution to their problems. This allows my clients to 5 to 10x their prices and have clients who happily line up to work with them because they know that they are the only solution. The second piece of that puzzle is actually knowing how to automate those conversions so you no longer have to sell people, they're able to sell themselves. This is that ability to be able to bring your message to life, to be able to create that breakthrough resonance that allows your messaging to communicate the value of what you do without actually needing to push people to make decisions. Because instead of having to force people to move, to constantly feel like you're selling and pushing people, instead what happens is you create the bingeable decision system that naturally feeds their brain with the necessary information that drives a decision. It's the reason why those yeses feel so natural. It's the reason why your audience is capable of selling themselves because you're able to give them what's necessary where the only logical solution becomes saying yes. And the third and final piece of that puzzle is actually sustaining that success. Being able to be a thought leader means that you're not just focusing on your own ability to drive revenue, your own ability of success, but it's actually knowing how you're driving success for those around you, those that you've made promises to. We call this the happy client machine because ultimately what it does is it builds the scalability of your method and your message by ensuring that you're actually able to drive results for your clients at scale so that they become your fiercest and biggest believers who go and share your message with the world while sticking with you for years and years to come because you've created world-class results for them without feeling like you're tied to your business. This is the power behind the Easy Yes method, and it's why I want to give you that invitation for you to take a step up and take a step into that next level where you're able to leverage your thought leadership, your methodology, let it do the heavy lifting for you. So you have people coming into your world begging to work with you while you get to focus on truly changing the world with your thought leadership. So if you're ready to learn how the Easy Yes method can work for you and your business, I want to invite you to a growth optimization call. This call is done directly with you. Remember, not a pressure process. It's meant for us to really get to know each other, for us to identify what your growth opportunities are and how and when the Easy Yes method can be applied within your business. And I'll share with you how we can work together if I believe it can be a fit. So head on over to easyesleads.com/call to book your call today. But if you're new around here, first and foremost, thank you so much for being here. We always appreciate that. Or if you've been around here, but you want to learn a little bit more about what the Easy Yes method really means and how we've leveraged this 3-step method to get your leads to sell themselves using the Netflix effect, head on over to easyesleads.com to check out our bingeable mini series that breaks down this 3-step process in detail. Now, as always, I love and respect and appreciate you taking the time to be here today to listen to this. I hope that you're taking away some big value opportunities of what it really looks like to create that sought after, that ability to become the go-to expert, the go-to thought leader who creates demand in their business. But what I would love is if you could take a quick moment and leave us a review or share your thoughts or even share this podcast with a friend if you found it valuable. But until next time, here's to keeping it real.